name's John Lowe. Okay. My name is John Lowe. I'm the tech lead for Discovery, is how I just style myself at here at UC Berkeley, working for digital collections for 5 museums. Miriam and I are essentially the dev team for the Berkeley museums that are using Blacklight. Miriam's done the lion's share of the customization on both Cinephile's portal, as we call it, as well as the art museum portal that they just demoed. And we've had a Blacklight portal going since 2018. The first one was the Hearst Museum portal, which represents the digital collections of the Hearst Museum of Anthropology. As you can see, it's as a Blacklight installation goes, it's relatively vanilla. We haven't, we've made some modest changes to the functionality and the look and feel, but we are using a bunch of plugins, and people seem very happy with this. So each of them has a splash page here in the which kind of helps people find their way into the collection. We have a fine collection of Netsuke, we are providing ways for people to visualize their search results in all 4 of the available Blacklight renderings, at least for the Hearst Museum. We started out in version 6. We're now working in version 7, just as of last week. So we have, as you can see in the facets here, we have a large number of facets. I guess Blacklight is kind of library set and document centric, but and so here we're using it for this other type of cultural heritage institution, of which there are lots, and the museum folks want to see lots of facets, even though many of these fields are not terribly fashionable. If you look at, let me put the link to this in the Slack channel. So you can see, we have, there's 750,000 objects in this collection, and the most common type of object is a potsherd. Some of the other cool features of this portal is that we're supporting advanced search, as you can see. We also are using the date widget happily. It'd be nice if that could actually work for like prehistoric dates and so on, because the Hearst collection has a nice selection of mummies, including, like, for example, cat mummies. And so you can search for the cat mummies that we have, and there are even a few pictures of them. We also are supporting several interesting media types. So we have currently about 117 3-dimensional images. This is an Inuit arrow straightener. What you do is you put your arrow into the hole here and slide it to the right spot and bend it so that you can straighten it. And it's the intention of the museum to digitize. There's an initiative to digitize many of their existing images in 3D. We also support, the Hearst has a very large collection of wax cylinders, mostly of Native American languages, and currently only a few of them are actually enabled or visible to the public. There are some 4,000 in the museum, but the museum's working with the tribes to make more of them available. But right now we only have a few. This, for example, is a rack cylinder recording of Ishi, the last Yahi Indian, as he is called. And we have audio recordings. We have these digitized at several different resolutions, and we put an MP3 version of these up on the web for people to listen to. And the Hearst also has a collection, a rather large collection of videos, mostly silent 16 millimeter sound, 16 millimeter film, mostly from the 50s and 60s. And we've made these available to be browsed on the web. And let's see, what else can I show here? I think that gives you kind of an overview of what this collection looks like. I'm going to move to the art museum, which Miriam and I have worked on, was put up last year for the first time, or no, earlier this year for the first time. This also has a very attractive splash page showing us a random selection of images. Miriam's had it set it up so that every time you visit the page, you get a different selection of images just to keep things interesting. There are if we look at the so we have a fine collection of Hans Hofmann's, and you can see here's the index display. We can look at an individual one, and we have added Miriam's added this additional feature of being able to browse other objects, other works by the artist. Museum collections, kind of unlike libraries and documents, they're very image centric, as you can imagine, and so we spent a good deal of time trying to make this look good. And with that, I think I'll wrap it up. We certainly would love to collaborate with other museums who are working on issues like this. We are not really wizards at Ruby on Rails, but we're getting better. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Miriam and John. Up next is Boston Public Library, Eben English, hopefully, or Eben English. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No worries. Yep, it's Eben. Hi, everybody. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, hopefully you are seeing that. So the site I want to show you today is called Digital Commonwealth. This is a Blacklight application that has been in production since I believe it's early 2014. So it's we started on Blacklight 4, 4.0.1. Now we're on 7.13. So we've been around for a long time and gone through quite a few upgrades. So I wanted to show you, basically Digital Commonwealth is a digital collection site. It's not a library catalog, similar to what we just saw from the Berkeley folks. We got a lot of different types of content here. This serves as the public front end for the Boston Public Library's digital collections, but also for digital collections from libraries around the state. So we're also a DPLA service hub. So we provide digitization services and then hosting and dissemination services for all kinds of libraries. And so we've got a lot of different materials here. But I just want to show you, in the brief time, maybe some of the customizations that we've done that might be interesting to other folks. So we use a lot of the, Blacklight plugins like Advanced Search, Blacklight Gallery, Blacklight Range Limit, Blacklight Maps, et cetera, but we've done some customization there. So let's just start with the Advanced Search. And so we've done a little bit of work here to kind of make the interface maybe a little more similar to what you might see in a database Advanced Search. So let's just do a search, since it's Hispanic Heritage Month, we'll do a search for Mexico, and I want to limit this to maps, and I just want stuff from before 1900. So I can do that here. And this should look familiar. We use Blacklight Gallery for this display. And a lot of people have been asking about Blacklight Maps in the chat. So Blacklight Maps offers you a couple of different additions to Blacklight, one of which is in this search results view, you can view your results on a map. So I can just click the maps icon, and basically it shows my results as they appear on a map. And so it's not exactly, apples to apples when you are showing search results, because a lot of the stuff we have in our collection doesn't have any geographic data. But if it does, we can show it on the map here, or we can show the geographic data that's associated with that object. So in this case, we can just drag the map to the area around Mexico, and then we can click the search, and it will return everything that intersects that bounding box that was shown in my window. And then so we'll just look at one of these maps here. And so this is the show page. And then Blacklight Maps also gives you this little maplet view here, where in this case, this map has both a bounding box, so we can see that here, and it also has a geographic subject of Mexico City. So if I click on that, I can view other items from Mexico City, and it just runs the search for that. These are just geographic subject facets, essentially. So one of the other customizations that I wanted to show is that we've integrated the universal viewer into our application. So we have a lot of full text content, some of which is like scanned books, but it's also manuscripts, letters, all kinds of handwritten materials as well. So I'm just going to do a search for Garrison. And let's run that. We have a lot of papers from William Lloyd Garrison, who was a prominent 19th century abolitionist. And we've done some work to transcribe these along with coordinates. So in the case of documents where we have searchable text, we offer this search inside feature. And so we can either choose to do the search with the search term we already used. We'll do that. Oh, I didn't find anything. Whoops. Well, let's try searching for Boston. Okay, let's try. Because this is a handwritten OCR or hand transcribed, I'm not exactly sure. It should be pretty accurate, but let's see if we can find something else. Okay, so we can get some highlighting search results here, and then if we want to view this, we can. It will open up the universal viewer, and because we have the coordinate data associated with the transcription, it will highlight our search term here. And so the way that we do this is via a gem that's called Blacklight IIIF search. So we have, I'm just going to go back to the item here. So we make a IIIF manifests available for all of our materials that have image content, essentially. And if there's full text content, there's also a IIIF search endpoint available as well. And so can do Q equals Benson. And so it returns a search result. So this is searching solar. All the full text is indexed in solar, and then it's returning the data in this JSON format that conforms to the IIIF search API. And that's what's consumed by the, let's get back. That's what's consumed by the universal viewer to provide that search functionality. In terms of other customizations that might be interesting, we have a sort of like a hierarchy, like a pseudo hierarchy of institutions and collections. And so each collection has its own, basically a show page for the collections where you can view the facets just for the items that belong to that collection. You can just search for only items that are in that collection. And then the same thing at the institution level, we can browse by, documents that only belong to this institution. So these are the different collections that we have for Boston Public Library. Here, there's a lot of different types of stuff. So I think that I'll probably wrap it up there, since I'm sure I've probably I've already gone over time, but we are very interested in full text search content, user experience, and also how that works in Solar, how to best practices for scaling Solar to handle that type of content. So if you were interested in that stuff, we'd love to chat at some point during the summit. So I'm going to stop sharing.
All right. Wow, that was pretty interesting. Thank you so much, Evan. Up next is Cornell University, Phil Robinson and Huda Khan.
Hi, everyone. Thanks. I will kick it off with a lovely picture of our campus. We'll start with just a brief overview about our folio anniversary and our catalog update. Then we have some updates from Spotlight and exhibits in that world, and Huda will talk about that. Talk about digital collections and LD4P3 experiments. Briefly, a systems overview, and it's a challenge because we have quite a few systems, as I'm sure your libraries do too. We switched over to Folio from Voyager last July, and that meant we had to adjust our Blacklight and Discovery and Access and do some new integration work to make that work. So currently our library catalog is on Blacklight 7.0.1. And we also have EBSCO Discovery Service, EDS, for articles, for online resources. We offer full text searching in a bento box. And we're working on upgrades on Ruby, Rails, and Blacklight. So we'd like to get to Blacklight 7.29.0. And then we have future dreams and visions. Right now they're visions. We'll see if we can get there. Getting on the same version as our digital collections portal, with containerization to help everything stay on the same version and help developers out. So we have digital collections, Blacklight. That's also, I mean, it's not called that, but it's also runs on Blacklight on a slightly different version, but some of the same architecture. And we have exhibits, which is on Spotlight, another flavor of Blacklight. And finally, we have Cougar, the CU, I believe it's geospatial repository that runs Geo Blacklight. And Huda is a specialist there. Just one other note, we could talk about many other systems, but our institutional repository is on DSpace. We also have a migration project to get that from DSpace 6 to DSpace 7, and our brand of it is called eCommons. So it has all of our theses and dissertations and a lot of other scholarly communications, and quite a bit more. So focusing on Folio for a moment. So as of last July, we had almost 2 million records, 1.83 records added or updated. That number's gone up a lot, of course, with new semester. Just you can look over the statistics, but it gives you an idea of the complexity of our library environment, as I'm sure many of yours are too. One highlight was to actually get the fiscal year running and cutting over to that for fiscal year 23 in Folio in a brand new system. That was a bit of a nail biter, but we got it through. And for the catalog update, I'd like to invite Huda to talk about that, if you'd like, Huda.
Sure.
Thanks.
I did drop the link to the slides in the Slack if people want to see the sort of details. But late last year, we made some updates to our author info box, which we now like to call a knowledge panel because it's fancier. So we used to have some information that showed up when you clicked on author or on the info button. We updated the info button and added information coming in from Wikidata and other sources. So here you can see the Wikidata image and a little bit of a description for George Eliot. And if you click on that view full info button, it will take you to the next page, which is on the next slide. And this page shows us bringing in information from DBpedia for a description. There are fields that have a little asterisk next to them that are also coming from Wikidata, like citizenship and where the person was educated. We also bring in information from the Library of Congress linked data connection for this, which gives us the classification that lets us link to the call number browse. So there's that browse related items by call number. And you can actually see that there is a link there that describes the work that went into this, but these customizations came about as a result of the work we did as part of the linked data for production. I'm going to forget which grant we're on, Closing the Loop grant. And then we were able to coordinate with the Discovery and Access team at Cornell, who are in charge of the catalog, and our user representatives who decide what goes into the catalog to update the page, as you can see.
So we also have online exhibits. And this is just a screen capture from that. And more online exhibits. So this is exhibits.library.cornell.edu, powered by Spotlight. We recently did an upgrade of that as well. So if you want to check that out, that's exhibits.library. So it's been a multi-year effort to try to standardize our exhibit platforms. We have one-offs and we have other systems, and we are on a mission to try to increase discoverability. One example is our rare and manuscript collections has some really good, kind of one-off exhibits that we someday would like to incorporate into Spotlight. And it's used by a lot of different departments around the campus. Over 47 exhibits are up and running right now. Spotlight upgraded to 3.1, but we're doing an ongoing accessibility assessment, which is tricky with the kinds of multimedia and other things that we have going. This one is our digital collections portal. Has a really similar architecture to Discovery and Access to our catalog. So this is digital.library.cornell.edu, and it has a pretty vast array of things. I really like that map there. We have a team that is at least partially dedicated to keeping that running and happy. It's had really good user engagement. It gathered, I'd say most of our digital collections in one place, regardless of format. A good engagement from users. Recently upgraded to Blacklight 7.24, so it's actually ahead of our Discovery and Access. I'll talk about that in an upcoming slide. And upgrading it to Solar 8. And it was launched around 2016 using Blacklight, so it's come a long way, and it's a big part of our portfolio. So Huda mentioned linked data for production, Closing the Loop. So this is a Mellon Foundation grant, an LD4P3. It's hard to remember all of the letters and numbers there for me, but So the closing the loop is creating a working model of a complete cycle for metadata creation, sharing, and reuse. And for discovery, exploring integrating features into production, and ways to use linked data in discovery. So there's some really cool stuff going on there.
I can talk about these two slides.
Thanks for that.
And I'm glad I got the name right. But yes, so these two slides that we're seeing here, and the first one and the second one after that are screenshots from a prototype that we're continuing. So the work we talked about that got integrated into production, that's already there. This is experimental. This part is experimental work. So we were trying to understand how we could bring in information about if you think about, for instance, Dune, translations and other copies, sequels, all the things that pieces of information that might relate back to that work. And how might we do it in a way that is useful and understandable to the user and can bring in the related library catalog resources. So these screenshots just show examples of a prototype where we're trying to experiment with how that information could be displayed and how we could bring that into the catalog. And again, there are links in the slides if people are interested.
Thanks a lot, Huda. The LD4P discovery collaborators, there's a long list. Now the asterisks are people who have left Cornell in the past year or so, I think the past year. But they, played a big role in this and other systems and other grants. So this is the list of collaborators, and that's with Stanford and Iowa as well. Then we have a pretty sizable library catalog team, and maybe some of your institutions do too. And again, the asterisks are people who left over the past year or year and a half. Some of these are developers, and they are actively working on the DNA catalog a lot, and we run sprints to do that. Others are librarians and library staff who are part of our user reps group. So they provide governance and guidance when we need to prioritize things. And they did that recently. We wanted to do one change that was kind of geeky and technical. And they said, no, something else is more important. And they made that loud and clear. So I listened to them, and we are doing that instead.
All right. So we're over time now.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Up next from Duke University, Sean Arey.
That's me. Thank you. Let's see. Y'all seeing this correctly?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Sean Arey. I'm a developer at Duke University Libraries. My pronouns are he, him, his. Here is our Blacklight update for 2022. We use a lot of Blacklight at Duke. We have 5 applications that we support directly in the Duke libraries. We have an additional 3 Blacklight apps that are supported by library adjacent units elsewhere at the university. We didn't end up adding any new ones this year, and you're going to notice that my updates are fairly light on new features for the existing applications. One of the main reasons for that, back in December, Rails 7 was released, which rendered Rails 5 end of life by June of this year. If you were already in Blacklight 7, this probably wasn't a very big deal for you, but if you, like us, were still using some Blacklight 6, this becomes a situation that needs attention. So we started the year with a bit of an uphill climb. We were still mostly using Blacklight 6. Most of our dev team was focused and already committed to finishing a multi-year Drupal migration project that really had nothing to do with Rails or Blacklight. But still, we have been successful in updating one of our Blacklight applications from 6 to 7 this year, and that's our catalog. For our catalog, we share a gem engine with our partners at Triangle Research Libraries Network, the TRLN. And we also share a Solar Index. On top of that application, we have a Duke application that provides additional extensions and customizations that are sort of only specific to Duke. So really, we're talking about updating 2 applications. And it took us all told about 4 months to get the catalog up from 6 to 7. We're highly indebted to Adam Constabaris at NC State and also Kelly Farrell and Jenya Kazimova at TRLN for helping us through this process and get up to 7. We learned a lot of lessons in upgrading from 6 to 7. It's a big undertaking, and you should account for all of it. So probably should devote 2 months of time per application from a team of developers. The things that make it complicated are customizations and overrides. If you use a lot of plugins, especially if you've made any customizations to those plugins, the APIs are different between 6 and 7. So any of these integration points where things are hitting your catalog for data, like your quick search bento apps and other widgets, that stuff needs all get updated. View components are interesting and cool and do represent a bit of a learning curve. So I'll plan for that accordingly. Any major Bootstrap update is no joke. So if you're going from Bootstrap 3 to 4, plan to rewrite almost all of your CSS and big chunks of your JavaScript and your markup. But you're not in this together, and the Blacklight community is very helpful and has been a great resource for us as we've been undertaking these upgrades. So a quick roundup of some other Blacklight work we've been doing. Duke Libraries created this year a statement on potentially harmful and offensive language in our library descriptions. So we've updated all of our Blacklight UIs so our users can actually know that it exists and get to it. Digital repositories we've been working on. We have a couple of Blacklight applications in support of repositories. One is a public-facing app and another is a staff-facing admin app. These applications are kind of bound together in ways that are challenging to manage. They are both also Blacklight 6 apps. We're currently working on pulling them apart, connecting them through some new APIs while also upgrading both of those apps to 7. We have a Hyrax application powering our research data repository. And this year we've added OAI PMH plugin for metadata sharing. We've also switched out how we're migrating or how we're minting DOIs from Crossref to DataSite. We're probably looking at a Blacklight 7 and Hyrax 3 to 4 updates coming within the next year for Hyrax. We use ArcLight. We've been on ArcLight in production since 2020. We really like it. It's awesome. We have not been doing very much development on it recently, although in this past year we have been doing a ton of community outreach. We've been participating in a number of discussions with peers who are either actively working on ArcLight implementations or who are thinking about it. We believe that we're one of 6 institutions that is currently live with ArcLight. I would imagine that by the Blacklight Summit of 2023, this number hopefully will be maybe closer to 10. We'll have to see. I want to give a shout out to all my fellow developers who support our Blacklight apps here at Duke. And that's all I've got today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean. All right, so up next from Princeton University, Bess Sadler.
Actually, I think Carolyn's going to start. Carolyn, do you, there you go.
Yep, I'm jumping in. So as Huda mentioned earlier, Princeton has a bunch of people presenting. Hello, I'm Carolyn Cole. Many hands makes light work. So we split up our 7 minutes. I'm going to give you a brief update on our Princeton Data Commons, which is our research data repository. We're trying to migrate. We're trying to migrate away from data space. So this is what we have. We have migrated to a lovely Blacklight interface that searches the we are working towards creating a new application for entering of the data, and that's in PDC Describe. That is not a Blacklight application. It's just a vanilla Rails application. We wanted to mention that we had some PDC jump starts for our PDC Describe. Yay, Blacklight. It made making things really easy. We also have this lovely Rails template that was created by another group at Digital Library Services at Princeton. And we utilize that. And so creating our Blacklight application, which I no longer can click on because of Zoom. Zoom, I hate you and I love you. There we go. Creating this was actually relatively quick and painless because we had these two jump starts. So thank you very much. Let's see, Bess, I'm going to let you jump in.
All right. All right, so Carolyn mentioned we're in the process of migrating away from data space. So our first, we wanted to do this in phases. Our first step has been to hive off the discovery function. So our legacy data space system did not such a great job of being searchable and helping people find stuff. So that part's done. That's PDC discovery, and you can go look at it. It's at datacommons.princeton.edu/discovery, and we can put that in the Slack channel. Our next step is now we need to migrate all of the data. And I'm actually using the word redescribe because the research data that's in there already is described. The kind way to say it would be modified Dublin core. It attempts to be Dublin core. There's lots of places where it isn't actually Dublin core, and there's lots of places where it's inconsistent. So in fact, we're very lucky to have a metadata fellow who's redescribing all of this in DataCite. And so we're creating so here's the Princeton Data Commons. It's not a Blacklight application, except that the data that is in it will show up once it is approved. So these are all fake data, but when it's real, researchers will be putting their data in it. Members of our data curation team will be looking at that data, asking for changes or maybe making curation changes themselves. And then when it has been approved, that's when it will start showing up in our discovery application. There's going to be, so that's what we're doing. That's what we're in the process of figuring out how to do right now. In order to completely shut down our legacy DSpace system, though, we're also going to have to migrate other content. Theses, I believe we're moving our entire process to, we're outsourcing it. I'm not going to come up with the name off the top of my head. And moving the actual theses are going to go into Figgy, which is our central digital library. And we have another location for open access publication. So that's the other stuff we need to move. Relevant to this audience maybe is our Traject config. So we've got a couple of different config files. This one is the one for our data space. So someone thought that it would be interesting to hear about the fact that this is for general purpose XML indexing instead of MARC records. So if you want an example of how that's done, there's a link. And then we've got a separate indexer that's indexing this data space content, or excuse me, DataCite content from PDC Describe. And the thing that is in front of us right now is kind of a complicated deduplication process, because there's going to be a period of time when we've got the same record that's indexed in the old system, so that's in Blacklight, and it's being described in the new system, and as soon as that's approved, that's in Blacklight. those are describing the same work. We don't want it to appear twice. So we need to figure out what is the deduplication logic. If everything had a unique ID like a DOI or an ARC, and we could count on that consistently, then it wouldn't be that hard, but that's not where we are. So we are working on figuring that out. And now I am going to hand the mic over to my other colleagues, Jane and Anna, I believe.
We can't hear you, Jane.
Hey, thanks. I had the mute button on the other screen, so I think I got it all figured out now. Hi, I'm Jane Sandberg. I'm one of the folks at Princeton. Last year at the Blacklight Summit, our colleague Hector talked about some of the work we were doing to make our catalog more inclusive. And so Anna and I are going to do an update about how that work has progressed and how we were able to share some of that approach and some of that work with our ArcLight application. I'm going to move some stuff around on my screens so I can find the share button. This feature called Change the Subject has been part of our catalog for about a year. And the basic approach is to, at index time, when we have MARC records that contain outdated terminology or offensive terminology, part of our traject operations are that we go through this YAML file, take a look for any of these terms. So for example, here on line 49, here's a term that we would like to replace. And then on line 50, it tells you what the replacement value is. And so that's what's actually going to display to patrons when they actually go into the record view of the catalog. And we index both of them kind of behind the scenes, so they're both searchable. So anybody using the catalog could search using either term. And that's been kind of one of the things that we've been doing. It's in the context of some other work we've done to make our catalog more inclusive. We also have something called, as opposed to change the subject, we also have augment the subject, where we have this big list of over 4,000 subject headings related to Indigenous studies. And part of what we do at index time is add another subject, Indigenous studies, to make those all a bit more searchable. We've also been started to index and display the homosaurus terms in the catalog, and that was a recent change that we did. But I want to hand it over to Anna and get back on track with the change the subject. So I'll hand it over to you, Anna.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Anna, and I'm going to share my screen. So Jane and I are on different developer teams with kind of different portfolio, application portfolios, but we're all really excited about the work that they had done with this change the subject. And one of the applications that my team works on is our ArcLight application, which is our finding aids website. And our product owners for the finding aids website said, we want that too. We've been doing all this work about developing, a statement on archival language, working on addressing offensive and harmful language in finding aids, providing ways for our patrons to know about that work and also to report any harmful content that they may run into. So every show page in our ArcLight application has this link at the bottom to a little form where our patrons can contact librarians. And they said, we want to do this change the subject stuff. We have LCSH, Library of Congress subject headings in our finding aids, and we want to make these same updates to move away from these archaic and offensive terms and toward these new preferred terms. So we basically just went over to the catalog indexing code and looked at it, and we said, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do with what they've already done. And we started talking about like, how can we pull this file in when we're doing our indexing, and what does this mean in terms of like time we'll spend over the network during indexing, and we finally just realized we would just want to use the same code. So we just want to pull this config file and the code that's related to it out into its own gem. So we reached out to Jane's team, and in particular, Max Cadle answered our call and said, yes, we really want to do this with you and move this to a separate gem. We got together that afternoon and started, generated a new gem. We pulled over all the tests and the little bit of code, the config file. It's a very small gem. It just provides this, primarily this .fix method. Here we are looking at code together. And everything went really smoothly. The only kind of gotcha that we ran into was that in our catalog, we could rely on a specific separator in a Library of Congress subject heading string, right? So you'll have like a broad term, and then you might have narrower terms. Those were all separated by, I think, an N dash in the catalog, but in our finding aids, they were separated by just 2 regular dashes. So we just had to make this small change to allow the separators to be passed in, which then it turns out sometimes they had spaces around them and sometimes they didn't. So we can now accept an array of potential separators. But Zoom, thank you very much. The story of our lives. Now we have this little gem, and Max integrated it back into bib data, and on my team, this is Elliot's PR that integrates it into our ArcLight application. And like Jane said, we continue to keep the old terms in a separate field that doesn't actually show up and doesn't get accounted for in hit highlighting and stuff like that. I think the only other thing I wanted to say was that there's potential here for moving the augment the subject work over to this gem as well, if it turns out we want to use that in multiple places. And there could be potential here for, a gem that accepts a local config file from an application. If this were, for Princeton, we always want to use this config file, but if there were interest in expanding this to, make it more broadly adoptable, that might be an update that we might look at doing. That's all from me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. So I think that covers the people who are on my list. So I guess now we can open up this section to questions.
David, I did want
Raise
to
your-
point out, oh, sorry. I just wanted to point out that there are questions that people have put into the notes, or I've copy pasted into
Oh,
the notes.
great.
I'm gonna actually go ahead and stop recording for the minute for now.